live from New York. All crazy, like we're on TV. You know, I love when people say that. But what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Young Rich Podcast. Again, today we have a very good episode. I love some of the stuff we're going to be discussing. A lot of drama has been happening the past 24 to 48 hours. So it's gonna be great to see how this episode goes today. But how you doing today, my brother?
Good. It was a late morning for me, but I'm up and at 'em, so looking forward to it.
Up in Adams, you know, this podcast where Davante Adams discusses that he's going to wants to request a trade, low key. All right, but the first topic of discussion, obviously, Davante Adams wants to request a trade. And I'll let you start this off. But before you go, obviously he was on the Up and Adams show. Coincidentally, every Tuesday he goes out there, AP, likes a Instagram picture post about Davante Adams playing his last game as a Las Vegas Raider, right? And so there was a lot of speculation. Then you thought about the whole Davante Adams. Was he injured when he sat out against the Cleveland Browns, right? And now you start getting more background that, we're all expecting that he was healthy during this. This was a business decision that they are both going on. They wanted him, he prefers to get traded. He's been very professional about this whole situation, right? So give me a couple teams that you would like to see Davante Adams on if he gets traded.
Yeah, so I would say that the Steelers, for one, I feel like he would fit in perfectly with the Steelers. They need another guy there with Justin Fields. Obviously, Pickens has been like carrying that offense. Him and then Freiermuth had a great game last week, but I'd say them. I'd also say maybe a dark horse. Sorry. Maybe a dark horse to get Davante is the Vikings. I feel like if they added another receiver, another weapon beside Justin Jefferson that isn't named Jordan Addison, that offense would be extremely dynamic, and that would put them over the mark, kind of like from like a pretty good offense to like one of the league's best offenses once TJ Hawkinson also comes back too. Another team that I'm thinking, the Kansas City Chiefs, obviously with the loss of Rashee Rice, their wide receiver room is it's full of Jags, bro.
Juju Smith.
Yeah, Juju. He didn't even touch. I don't even think he touched the field last week. But Juju, Xavier Worthy, Justin Watson, Justin Ross. Literally, I wish they gave Justin Ross a chance, man. I don't know what Andy Reid has against Justin Ross, but Justin Ross is an absolute dog who went to LSU, and he just hasn't gotten playing time. But when he does really well. So hopefully it means more playing time for Justin Ross. But this also means just Travis Kelce's going to get force fed. But yeah, I mean,
yeah, I definitely think the offense will struggle with the Rashee Rice not being there, because obviously I did hear Tyreek rumors back to Kansas City. That possibility. Does he want to come back? Things like that. But I do like the Minnesota. Davante going to Minnesota, right? Because this is a contract where there is no guaranteed money left, right? So at the end, the cap hit you would have for this half of the season would be $13.5 million, which is not crazy. It's not asking too much. And then after that, you can cut him, right? Like this can be a 1-year deal trade, right? Like you can come bring him in, give some draft compensation, go all in on winning a Super Bowl right now, right? And you could make that work, right? You would be clean off the cap in the years to come. You wouldn't have to commit to Davante Adams long term, right? And so it becomes a whole situation of where does Davante Adams really want to go? Does he want to go to? I heard the Jets, right? Which to me, I just don't think it's a safe situation. I think it's only going to get worse. That because there's Garrett Wilson. You have Robert Saleh, we're not sure if he's a good head coach just yet. We're not sure. All these little things. We're not sure if Aaron Rodgers is truly the Aaron Rodgers that he's shown flashes of, right? That age has shown clear in his play to start the season, especially only putting up 9 points against the Denver Broncos last week, right? And then Baltimore is another name I did hear, but to me, Baltimore is a situation where they just need to run the ball. They need to stick to what they're doing, right? And I think Davante would go there in the hopes of winning a Super Bowl, maybe, right? But not for, getting his numbers. And the way Davante Adams has, and he's expressed what he wants to do through the receiver documentary, through his interviews with Shannon Sharp, is that he wants to be great. He wants to be legendary. He wants to put himself in that Hall of Fame ballot. He wants to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, And when I think about that, I obviously want to put him in a place where he's going to go out there and succeed, right? And another place like Dallas, where you have CeeDee Lamb, you have no run game, right? You have a situation where this could mean you have two top tier wide receivers, which is just two of the best receivers in the league, right? Which is going to be very hard to cover, very difficult. You already throw the ball about 42 times a game, right? And we know that's not Dak's strength, but you can't run the ball anyway, so what does it matter, right? Now you have to guard CeeDee Lamb and Davante Adams, right? Which I think would be great, right? You could be looking at, when I thought about this hypothetically, a MVP type year from Dak Prescott if they come together, right? Because that's just too many dynamic weapons. They're both elite at what they do, and to have them side by side, 1-2, playing across the side of each other, it's just too much to deal with, right? But outside of that, I did hear a little talk about Cincinnati, them trading for Cincinnati, a T. Higgins, Davante Adams swap, a 1 year, let's buy into winning a Super Bowl this year, bring in Davante Adams, you can cut him the next year. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, yada, yada. But me personally, as a Raiders fan, obviously I would be okay with doing something like this because you get another guy in T. Higgins, right? You would obviously, if you trade for T. Higgins, you would guarantee you're going to pay him, right? Because that's the whole point of bringing him in anyways. If we're not going to be great this year, right? So that's another situation that I heard of, hypothetical, shout out Nick Wright, that I think would be a great option for us. You get another, 1B type receiver. You get to pay him. He's not going to be as great as Davante Adams, but you will have another wide receiver one step into that receiving core for the future rookie quarterback or whatever quarterback that we have in the future. But yeah, obviously I would be sad if Davante Adams gets traded. Watching him play for my team for 3 straight years. I was a fan of him before he got here. He was just my favorite player to watch, And so when you're losing somebody like that, I respect what he's done. Just to put this out there for the Raiders, he came to play with Derek Carr. We couldn't get it done with Derek Carr. Derek Carr leaves, he gets cut, right? All that stuff. Just a couple of bad years. Statistically, he was great. His bad year, a year ago, was 1,300 yards and leading the NFL in receiving touchdowns. Last year, whole different story, right? The second half of the season was a lot more better for him and his benefits, but I respect him for dealing with all the Josh McDaniels cycle, the inconsistent quarterback play, dealing with Jimmy G, who was obviously absolutely horrible, right? To stick it through with AP, to even try to get it, get things going this year. So I respect him for trying to make it work here, but he's lost too many good years in his career, especially in the prime of his career. Just a year ago, 2 years ago, he was seen as the best receiver in the NFL. It's not like it was too long ago. He had one off year last year with everything else going on. So I hope he goes wherever he goes out there, he succeeds and is absolutely successful with what he does. But the next, go ahead.
I just wanted to throw another 2 teams out there too that I was thinking of. The Bills. I feel like Davante would love to go to the Bills, and I feel like the Bills are looking for a superstar on their offense.
If they trade for Davante, the Bills, I think that puts them over the hump. Like you're looking at them completely different.
Because I think the Ravens game exposed a lot of things that we were talking about how like the Bills don't have a superstar, right? They don't have to force feed anyone the ball. But in games against like teams like the Ravens or like powerhouses like that, you need a superstar guy who can take over and get you yards when you need it. And the Bills they were clamped. Like Josh Allen couldn't do anything. They couldn't do anything in the run game, and it kind of exposed that offense. You know what I mean? They actually played one of the better teams, a better defense that knew how to game plan him and just, keep him in the pocket and, just lock down guys like, Khalil Shakir or Dalton Kincaid. So I feel like that would be a great situation going to Josh Allen, obviously probably best quarterback in the NFL right now. Davante would probably be ecstatic about that. And then you get that rental piece, and the Bills are in win now mode and they want to get to the Super Bowl because they've kind of been flirting the past few years with it. And I just feel like that would be a great situation. Another kind of low key situation too that would be pretty cool is the Commanders. I know the Commanders don't need their draft capital right now because they got their franchise QB. You know what I mean? Everything's kind of firing off on all cylinders. They've got Terry, right? I feel like Terry's one of those wide receiver 1Bs, high end wide receiver 2. But if they added Davante to that offense, man, that would be insane because outside of Terry, I don't think their other receivers really pull their load. It's more the run game, and then Jaden Daniels kind of making it happen. And then
Old
Zach
boy
Ertz
Zach
as well
Ertz.
in the
Yep.
last game too. Yeah, so if they got Davante, that would definitely put him over the hump. It would give a young superstar quarterback another weapon to throw to, and that offense would just get even more dynamic. So that's another situation that I thought would be great.
Yeah, and also because Davante has spoken highly about Jaden Daniels. Like he said, he thought he was gonna be a great player. He said he watched him in college. He said he wished he would have fell and or somehow we would have traded up to get him, right? Like he was one of those guys he was highly thinking very highly of coming out of the draft. But for me, I just think the Commanders are in a situation where you're very good, right? Just keep your draft picks and just try to build a team because the defensively, I mean, although it's been playing better, right, compared to last year, you were the worst defense, almost the worst defense in the league. But so I would just say to keep adding pieces. I wouldn't just because Davante is in everything's got to go right for me right now, right? And with what you got with Terry, maybe you only have one true wide receiver, but I think you could just you could add this offseason. You don't have to commit yourself to somebody like Davante Adams, who brings a lot of pressure for a quarterback. Like I got to get my touches, I need my touches, and Jaden Daniels is such a dynamic athlete that it's just like a Baltimore Ravens situation where it's like if he runs the ball for 200 yards in one game, I mean Davante's gonna be happy we won. He's gonna be, but I'm saying, but deep down inside, he's gonna be like, I only got one touch. So there's gonna be some, what I'm saying, situations like that. So I would hope he stays away from a young quarterback like that and goes to more seasoned veteran place. But the next topic I did want to discuss is my glorious king, Samuel Darnold, for MVP. At this current moment, is Samuel Darnold the MVP of the league?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. You can't say no here. I mean, like he leads the NFL in passing touchdowns. His team's undefeated. He just hasn't made that many mistakes. And he's just slinging the ball. He's getting the Vikings to win. And he's leading the NFL in passing touchdowns like more than like 3 or more. You know what I mean? So, yeah, no, he's the MVP right now. I don't see who outside of that would be an MVP. And if it were somebody else, it'd have to be at a different position because like if you're thinking maybe like Josh Allen, yeah, he doesn't have a single interception this year yet, and he has like 6 or 7 touchdowns passing, but
he just got dog walked.
Yeah, he just got dog walked. Same thing with like Baker. I mean, Baker did really, really well last week against the Eagles, which was pretty shocking. Like he went absolutely ballistic, but then you think he got absolutely annihilated by the Broncos. You keep going down the line of like guys that it could be, like Brock Purdy, not really. He has a couple of interceptions. He's played well, but no, they're 2-2. You think Patrick Mahomes? No, he has more interceptions than games played right now. He's not being Mahomes. You think of Mahomes, you think of that's honestly that's kind of it when it comes to like the quarterbacks. When you think of running backs, maybe like Derrick Henry, Jordan Mason. Henry, I feel like he had 2 really good games back to back. Jordan Mason, he's really, really good. Just not like, it doesn't scream like shout off the page. Receivers.
It was just funny to hear that, like Jordan Mason.
Yeah.
That game, one of the best players in the league.
He's one of the league leaders, so that's why I threw it out there. Receivers, right? You're thinking Malik Neighbors, Nico Collins, maybe dark horse. He's going insane. Like insane. He leads the NFL in receiving by like almost 100 yards. It's pretty crazy. But I'd say it's pretty clear cut right now that Sam Darnold is the MVP favorite. His team's the best in the NFL. They're undefeated. He has the most passing touchdowns. He has also a decent amount of passing yards too. He doesn't make that many mistakes. Sure, he has 3 interceptions in the first 4 games, but I don't know.
The interceptions were like they were up by like 21. They were up by 3 scores, so it was kind of like they were bad interceptions, sure, but like I'm not worried about those.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, listen, like you said, first in passing touchdowns, only 3 interceptions this year. Second in yards per catch, Ninth in yards, 11th in completion percentage. First in passer rating. You have significant wins over the San Francisco 49ers, who are being discussed as one of the best stacked rosters in the NFL. You beat Green Bay with a Jordan Love coming off injury, sure, but Jordan Love is still Jordan Love, and he showed that in the second half of that game. You beat the Houston Texans, who were looked at as Super Bowl favorites. These guys were looked at one of the highest packed offenses in the NFL. You beat the Giants. You beat up on the Giants, which everyone thought was a fluke game, and you continue to do it over and over and over, right? But one of the biggest things I love about Sam Darnold right now is he's just playing unselfish football, right? If you want to come down here and run the ball in key situations, he's going to go do it, and that just sets up the play action. And he's played a couple of these games without Jordan Addison. He's played his games without a Justin Jefferson, so he's not even at full health with his roster 100% of the time. You still don't have TJ Hawkinson back, which adds another dynamic to this team. TJ Hawkinson was arguably statistically the best tight end in the league last year, right? And before he ended up getting hurt. And he's someone that if you implement into this offense, I think this offense can take another step. If they go out here, go all in this year and trade for Davante Adams, you could be looking at a completely different guy, right? And Justin Jefferson is happy. These guys are undefeated. They play the New York Jets this week, which I think they're going to knock them to 2-3 and put them below 500. I mean, listen, Sam Darnold, I've been waiting for this season that he's having since the year he came out and was drafted by the New York Jets, right? And everyone's looking at him like, oh, pumpkin watch. We're looking for this guy to come out here and have a bad game. We're looking for this, which bad games happen, right? But we're looking for this guy to come out here and show he truly is Sam Darnold from the New York Jets, the second overall pick to the New York Jets from USC, And so I hope, to prove everybody wrong, he goes out here and dominates this season, extends the length of his career, revives his career after this season, and I'm all for it. If the Minnesota Vikings go out here and win the division, in easy fashion, and they go out here and compete with the Detroit Lions this year, or make it to even win a playoff game with Sam Darnold, I couldn't be happier for this guy. And with a defense like that, I think it can, and I'm with Sam Darnold every step of the way. Fight on, go USC. But then very briefly, I did want to discuss Jayden Daniels so far. Obviously, a 3-1 start with wins over the Cincinnati Bengals, the New York Giants, and the Arizona Cardinals. What are your thoughts on Jayden Daniels and the Washington Commanders this year?
They're extremely exciting to watch. Not so much the defense, but more so the offense. It feels like, they had the they went what it said, 16 drives without punting or something like that. They hadn't punted since week one. Insane. With a rookie quarterback too. That's crazy. And that they have some weapons, you know what I mean? They have a very old Zach Ertz. They have Terry, right? But outside of those guys and Brian Robinson, who do you really have? You know what I mean? They have Austin Eckler, but Eckler hasn't been what he was on the Chargers the slightest. Brian Robinson, though, has been picking it up in the backfield. He's been doing really well. But credit to that offensive line, man. That offensive line has done so well holding up Jayden and just allowing, adapting off the fly to Jayden running out of the pocket, him spreading it out. You know what I mean? When they needed to run the ball, Brian Robinson gets there. He just gets it done. And that offensive line has been stellar. Absolutely stellar. It's been, in my opinion, right now, the best offensive line in the NFL. Maybe outside of, the Ravens offensive line has picked it up, but the first couple weeks of the season, they were very, very shaky. But the Commanders offensive line, they've been doing extremely well, and credit to them, man, because they've been holding up Jayden. And if you have a rookie quarterback back there who's not getting hit, who's not getting pressured every single play, you know what I mean? He's going to build that confidence. He's going to start making the throws. He's going to start, maybe he starts rolling out of the pocket or, throwing some stuff on the run, things like that. But it's going to feel very fluid for Jayden. It's going to feel very natural instead of forced, you know what I mean? Because he's not having to be forced out of the pocket. He's not having to, tuck it and run. He can do everything on his own rhythm because of that offensive line.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with you. Listen, I mean, first in completion percentage, 82.1. Like you said, the 3 straight weeks basically without punting the football, it's just insane to hear. And then just his aspect of being able to run the ball, is just crazy, because it's he doesn't even rely on his athletic ability all the time, but it's there. It's just the difference between him and Lamar is that he's comfortable sitting in the pocket. He's comfortable taking shots to the chin to make sure the throw gets there on time. And he delivers a dime, just like you've seen the game-winning touchdown, the icing touchdown against Cincinnati, right? Sits in there, delivers an absolute dime, takes a shot to the chin, and gets up and just goes celebrate with his team, right? But I'm just happy for the Washington Commanders fans. I mean, you've just had so much, bad luck with quarterback position, drafting quarterbacks. Terry McLaurin, a guy who, when he came in, I was very high on. I've still been very high on Terry McLaurin with the production he's put up with D plus quarterbacks, C minus quarterbacks at best. That Taylor Heineke. You had the back end of Carson Wentz. It's just a lot of bad situations for him over there. Sam Howell. I mean, sure, he threw the ball for like 4,200 yards, but he also had 25 interceptions. But I'm just happy for this organization. Like, you finally hit on a quarterback. And, Jaden Daniels, again, I said he was going to be the most pro-ready coming in. And so far, that's played true. He's played to his strengths. He's looked extremely composed. Nothing. The moment's never too big for him. In a young quarterback like that, with not the the most dominant weapons around him, like you said, an aging Austin Eckler, Brian Robinson, somebody who has definitely increased his stock this year, but somebody coming in was not somebody we're looking at very highly of. We were like that running back position. That's why you bring in an Austin Eckler to help boost that running back position. And then with Terry McLaurin, like, you trade away Jahan Dotson, and outside of that, Zach Ertz, like you said, is the only guy there who's like reliable and getting touches. And so, for a moment, through week one, I really thought this was going to be more of a run-heavy type team. Like Jaden Daniels going to use his legs a lot. Brian Robinson's going to use his legs a lot. And then since then, the last 2 weeks, they've really got the pass game going together. And so I could only imagine what it would look like if you had another, like, wide receiver 2 or a 1B type guy next to Terry McLaurin. Like if Jahan Dotson would have panned out, or maybe they trade for Davante Adams. Like, I could only imagine what this team would look like. And Jaden Daniels with Cliff Kingsbury, somebody I'm very high of as well. Shout out to Cliff Kingsbury to making this easier for him in the adjustment period. And I'm just happy for not only Cliff Kingsbury, Dan Quinn, but this whole entire organization, because they deeply need something like this.
Yeah, I was gonna say too, one like crazy stat that I saw was the Commanders have put together more scoring drives than Jaden Daniels has incompletions. So they've scored the ball more times on a drive than Jaden Daniels has thrown incompletions this season. So Jaden Daniels has like
incompletions. I thought you said completions, so I was like,
no, incompletions.
Okay,
No. So Jaden has like 19 completions, and the Commanders have 23 scoring drives, which is insane.
That is crazy. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, definitely. That's probably the biggest thing that I didn't expect was the high completion percentage. Because, like, it's just it's crazy. It's ridiculous. But I'm happy for him. I'm happy for this organization, man.
Mhm.
The next topic I did want to get into is the Will Levis quarterback situation in Tennessee. And Brian Callahan, as obviously in post-game interviews, criticized Will Levis. He had made the comment about if we punted the ball every time on offense on first down, we would have put ourselves in a better position to win. There's been after every game, there's always something Brian Callahan has to say about Will Levis. And obviously, you're leading the NFL in interceptions, 29th in yards per game, only in front of Justin Herbert, Jacoby Brissett, and Bryce Young. Not good area, category to be in. You blew games to the Chicago Bears where you were up 24-0. You blew a game versus the New York Jets, which you could have possibly won, and then you lose to Green Bay, not by the hands of Jordan Love, but by the hands of Malik Willis. Let me know what you think about this Will Levis situation.
It's Mason Rudolph time, baby.
I'm so for it. I'm so for it. Let me just tell you, I'm so for it.
A lot of like inside me too. This is really similar to like for me the Kenny Pickett situation, except I don't think the Kenny Pickett situation was ever this bad. I know that Steelers fans were calling for his head pretty early, but they gave him like no time to develop at all. And he also had Matt Canada at offensive coordinator and like a horrible offensive line. And he just had George Pickens, maybe Deontay Johnson, but Deontay Johnson was made of glass and hurt like every single week. So Will Levis has a better situation than Kenny Pickett did and a better offensive coordinator. And Kenny Pickett didn't throw as many interceptions as he did, but it's really reminding me of that. This is Will Levis's first full season in the NFL, and everyone's already calling for his head. I feel like no one in the NFL knows what it takes to develop a quarterback or to just let a guy just learn from his mistakes. You know what I mean? We're in week 4 of his first full season starting as an NFL quarterback, and Titans fans are already calling for his head and things like that. And everyone just wants, their quarterback to come out here and be like Jaden Daniels as a young QB, which is, or like CJ Stroud, which it's unrealistic. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you hit on guys like that, but other times you have like, if we were the NFL now and Josh Allen got drafted and Josh Allen had the first 2 seasons he had as a rookie, he'd probably get benched and no one would want like, to see him play. Like it's kind of ridiculous to me how impatient the NFL and fans are now, which is it's just kind of ridiculous in my opinion, because a guy like Josh Allen would have gotten benched before he even became a superstar because he just had a lot of turnovers and he wasn't moving the ball down the field. Like the first 2 years of Josh Allen's career, he was looking like a bust, but they kept at him and he kept developing and now he's the best quarterback in the NFL. So that's what I mean. Like they need to stick with their guy. I feel like they'll stick with Will Levis, but I would really like I feel like the Titans are in win now mode. And I would give Mason 1 or 2 spot starts, see how the offense does, because the offense did really well with him. He didn't really do much, but when he needed to do something, he did. Just like before halftime when he threw an absolute dart down the field to Tyler Boyd to get another field goal before halftime. Um, and he just made the throws that he needed to when people were open, and they just relied on the run game and they won, and they dropped like 30 points or however many points they dropped. So, and that's something they didn't do with Will Levis. They weren't moving the ball like that. They weren't doing that. And it's simple as that. You know what I mean? And so if I was the Titans, I'd give Mason Rudolph the next 2 games. They're going into a bye week. Obviously, Will Levis will be fine. They'll probably hit a lot of film. And then I'd say they'll probably start Will Levis after the bye week, but I would really give Mason Rudolph 2 starts back to back. Let Will Levis kind of like see what it's like sitting behind Mason. If Mason does well, that's fine. Ride the hot hand, keep going. If Mason does bad, put Will Levis in. You know what I mean? You get what you get. So that's kind of like my whole take on the situation. I would give Mason a couple of starts because he's very Mason. Rudolph is a very conservative quarterback. He's one of those guys who plug in and, he's not going to do anything flashy, but if a guy's open, he'll get him the ball. You know what I mean? If a guy's open, he'll get him the ball. So, and like in an offense with the Titans, that's all you really got to do. So, yeah, that's kind of just my take on the situation.
Yeah, and to me, I think the biggest thing with me is because he sat behind Tannehill last year partially, and then he had that electric game versus Miami, was it, where he threw 4 touchdowns off rip. But like I just look for some sort of improvements in your game, right? And last year the biggest issue, strong arm, a lot of inaccuracies, right? Like you were missing a lot of easy throws, right? Year one, all right, flush it out. Now this team is built to win. Like I don't care what anybody says. This defense is good. This receiving core, D Hop, Ridley, Tyler Boyd, good. Pollard, Taj Spears, good, right? Like these guys are built to. You just drafted spent your first round pick on a tackle to help Will Levis. You could have gotten a quarterback. You wanted to see what you got in Will Levis, so you did the right thing. And this year again, to me, I think it's kind of a lot of the same stories. I think, so, with the big arm he has to learn to just take the vanilla stuff, make the vanilla plays, the basic plays, the check downs. When nothing's there, don't force it. Like when against Chicago, when he's falling down and he's trying to pitch his player the ball and he goes right over his head, boom, pick six. Like you were just doing little things like that just continued to hurt you. And I just feel like, again, I'm not saying this is the best roster constructed ever, but this is a very competitive roster. You just traded for L'Jarius Sneed, the help on the back end, right? You have Tony Pollard, who's a decent running back you could use going forward. But when a guy like Mason Rudolph goes in and wins a game against the third string quarterback, not even the third string, someone they just picked up in Tyler Huntley for Miami, right? But you started off the game 3 for 4, 25 yards, 1 pick, you get hurt, right? And then the backup comes in and wins the game, like I said, it's gonna leave a bad taste in my mouth, my teammates' mouth, right? For the first time, like Tennessee finally was like, all right, here we go, we got some offense going, and now we're gonna go win the game. That's exactly what they did, right? Tony Pollard had a big second half. Defensively, again, they did what they were supposed to do. But again, this does not look good if I'm Will Levis. If Mason Rudolph is coming into a situation like this and winning the game, again, it is against a guy you just picked up off the couch in Tyler Huntley to play quarterback. But with Brian Callahan, with everything that he says negative about Will Levis, I wouldn't be surprised if Mason Rudolph doesn't give the spot back. Generally, especially if you're going into a bye week and then Mason Rudolph comes back and plays a game and he's just playing good and good and good. Like we've seen how he ended the season last year for the Steelers. You stuck with the hot hand. He played in the playoffs. Obviously, you fell short, but again, that's I trust Mason Rudolph more than I trust Will Levis, and him stepping in and winning a football game, the first football game from this year, just starting to prove my point right. So I never was on the Will Levis train, but definitely I think I'm with you. Developing a QB takes so much time, right? And nowadays, everybody is going to, by year one, like Caleb Williams, everyone expected him to be the next Patrick Mahomes, right? And they didn't want to give him that learning curve that he's going through. And now everyone's saying, oh, he's going to be garbage. Jaden Daniels is going to have a better career than him. It just switched like that in a matter of weeks, okay? So I get it. Developing a QB takes so much time, and I'm all for that first year, having that guy back up, a starter or a veteran, and just learning the ropes of the NFL. Don't rush him into the starting spot. But Will Levis definitely needs to make some improvements, because although it's his first year actually starting, this is kind of where you start to, especially through week 4. You know what I'm saying? Once you get to that trade deadline, weeks 9 to 10-ish, that's when you want to start seeing improvements at the quarterback position. Just some hope that Tennessee has a future in this guy. And if he can't continue to do that, or if he can't do that at all, then it's going to be very bad day next year for him when the draft comes around. And they're one of the worst teams in the NFL, so they're just Carson Beck, here we go, But the next topic of discussion I did want to discuss is the Justin Fields quarterback situation in Pittsburgh. And you being a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, how should we be feeling about Justin Fields through 4 weeks?
Yeah, I'm starting him the rest of the season. Russell Wilson is not seeing the field, bro. Man, I wasn't a believer. Like, it takes a lot for me to be a believer, especially in Fields and like the Steelers offense. But after seeing, how well he did against the Chargers, and being like, oh, there's no way he does it again the next game, because we never have consistent quarterback play ever, and we never have consistent offensive play either, right? And he did crazy good. He threw for over 300 yards, which hasn't been done since Big Ben was our quarterback, bro. That's how long it's been. And we had Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, I guess, Mason Rudolph. Yeah, sure, Matt Canada's offense, but no one's thrown for 300 yards since Big Ben, which is crazy to think of. And Justin did it last week. And, he had a couple of rushing touchdowns as well. He finally just aired the ball out. Like, I feel like every week they keep opening the offensive playbook for him. And this week was kind of just the peak. Like, he was letting the ball go. Pickens was open down the field. It felt like every single play. He had over 110, I think 113 yards receiving. Pat Fryermuth, right? He got like 5 catches for 50 or 60 yards, something like that, and a touchdown. And he just was getting the ball to guys. He was just he was slinging it. But the only thing that sucks, right, that leaves a bad taste in your mouth, and Steelers fans will talk about it, is the turnovers. It's with all these great flashes of Justin Fields and everything, it's the dumb turnovers. You know what I mean? Or just the dumb plays in general. There's just when he had a free rusher, a corner come off the edge. I think this was in the fourth quarter. Come off the edge on a corner blitz. Offensive line didn't pick him up at all. It was just a free shot at Justin. Justin being Justin, instead of just taking the sack, sitting down, he rolls out of the pocket, right? He tries to run away from him. He does a little spin backwards, and then he slips, and then he fumbles the ball. And we were on the other side of the 50 in their territory. He runs backwards, fumbles the ball in our territory, and they get the ball back and they score. So, I mean, it's a fumble like that. It's like a bad snap. Like at the end of the game, we were kind of pushing the ball down the field, and then I don't know if it was Justin's fault, if it was Zach Frazier's fault, our rookie center who's been doing crazy well, but it's happened more than once where Justin is either not ready for the snap or our center is just messing up the cadence and he's just snapping the ball early. But he snapped the ball and it hit Justin in the face, and we lost like 12 yards on the play on first down. And then after that, it just set us up for failure. After that, it was over. Um, and it's a lot of just dumb mistakes. There's a lot of dumb mistakes that happen. But once, Justin figures out those dumb mistakes and those don't happen, it's going to be awesome to watch because this offense is night and day from what it was last year with Kenny Pickett and Matt Canada. I like it's beautiful to see. Like I don't think I've seen a single end around this year. And oh my gosh, I hate that play so much. Matt Canada. That was Matt Canada's go-to offensive play when we were in a rut or something like that. He'd be like, all right, Calvin, you're going to go in motion and we're going to hand it off to you on the perimeter and you're going to get around them. And then it's
Big
like a
time
loss of two
plays.
oh my gosh, it's so frustrating. But the only thing that sucked this game, we could not do anything on the ground at all whatsoever. And to keep like, to keep Steelers fans at bay, to keep everybody else, like, they're saying, oh, Najee Harris is not that. We have three of our starting offensive linemen out for like the season. So our first round pick, Troy Fotano, he's out. He's on IR. James Daniels just tore his Achilles, and he was our starting left guard, and he's been for the past 3 years, and he's been super solid. Tore his Achilles. He's out for the season. And then we had our other guard, Isaac Siamalu, who's our starter, right? He's been on IR as well. He might return this week, but it's looking like he's not going to. So we're down to this guy named Spencer Anderson on our offensive line, who's like a practice squad guy. And then Mason McCormick, who's like our fourth round rookie. And then Dan Moore, who's the lowest graded offensive tackle, who was the lowest graded offensive tackle last year in the draft. Broderick Jones, who has not been crazy. Like, he was our first round pick last year, but he has not been like, up to par. He had a good game last week, but this week it was kind of like not there. And then Zach Frazier, who to me, in my opinion, is a stud. So that offensive line went from a really like above average, like pretty good offensive line to like now you've got a backup, a guy off the practice squad, and like a couple of wash guys. You know what I mean? Like
A
it's
lot of
that
concern.
offensive line, the run game, it's not going to be there. And Steelers fans need to realize that. Like it's not going to be there. Like you can blame Najee all you want, right? But that offensive line is horrid. Like it's bad now. It's so bad. When you lose more than half of your starting line to injuries, like you can't get mad at the running back. You know what I mean? Najee's getting hit in the backfield every single play, and it's annoying to watch. Steelers fans, they're some of the most annoying fans in the NFL. They have no patience. So just things like that. You know what I mean? Najee's been like one of the most consistent running backs in the NFL where he doesn't get hurt. He's there. Like the best ability is availability, and Najee just doesn't miss games, even though he gets beaten up every week. Like beaten up. He's one of those bruising running backs, and he just stays healthy. You know what I mean? But man, the Justin Fields situation, I really hope. I know there's still talk about like all the like Justin Fields, he's not doing too great, blah blah blah. There's still people saying that. It's so overblown. Like he did so good. Like literally, I don't know. Like people who are saying that are so ungrateful as Steelers fans or like anyone else. I've had to watch this offense with Matt Canada and Mason Rudolph and Matt Canada and Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky. I've had to go through that, bro. I don't want to go through that again. I don't want to put Russell Wilson in a spot start and lose the game because we just wanted to see how does Russell Wilson look in this offense. We saw it in the preseason. Obviously, it's preseason, doesn't count, blah, 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 whatever. He looked washed in the preseason, like horrible. You know what I mean? And if he doesn't have the drive in him to start after just hurting his knee on pushing a sled, bro, it's not that. He's not even hurt right now. I know for a fact he's not hurt. After week 1, right? He probably sat out because the pressure was too much on his old Fraley. Yeah, he's old, bro. He's old. Like it's annoying that every week it's like, oh, Russell's injury's getting better and better and better. No, it's not. It's been better since week 1, bro. He's just sitting because Justin Fields is doing well, and they're gonna put it as an excuse that he's hurt, so they won't start him over Fields because of that. Even though Fields is outperforming is performing well, and they don't want to start Russell Wilson. They think that Russell Wilson has seniority, or like that he deserves, like, a chance at this starting spot or whatever. No, the offense has been running on all cylinders. It's getting better every single week. Like, it's every single week. It's just going up and up and up and up and up. What do you think's going to happen when they put another quarterback in there, especially someone like Russell Wilson? It's going to decline, and all that progress that you made, it's going to disappear. So they need to stick with Justin, and I would be furious if Mike Tomlin doesn't stick with Justin.
Yeah, and I'm with you 100%. Justin Fields has played better than, I expected. And he's continued to look better each and every week. 70.6 completion percentage, 1 INT on the season. Yes, only 3 touchdowns on the year, but you have wins over Denver, and the Chargers, Atlanta. You the only loss to the Colts. You have, like you said, 300 plus yards. But for me, I mean, like you said, Najee Harris had no run game, right, against the Colts, right? When you have no run game like that, as like 12 yards, I think, for Najee Harris, that's going to be a big concern. It's going to be hard for anybody to win games, right? And especially when that defense, who has been so great all year, kind of has a
That was a big question.
like
What
a
happens when they give up some points?
Right,
Yeah.
right, exactly. So like the 1 week, although the offense did put them in some bad situations, right? They answered all that stuff, but they give up some amount of points, more than 20, like you said, that lucky number. And then you just couldn't come back that way, right? You still had chances, right, to end the game. You still had a chance to go out there and try to tie this up and send it into OT. But I'm definitely liking what I'm seeing from Justin Fields. Mainly because, one, he's getting his best target, just George Pickens, involved, right? He's getting him the ball. When he's got that one-on-one opportunities, he's throwing the ball. He's getting him a chance to make plays, and George Pickens is making plays. He's getting your tight end involved, right? Najee, for the most part, was having solid production. You still have Warren giving you solid production. Cordell Patterson had himself a solid game running the ball this past week. You still have a couple good pieces. I didn't know the O-line was that banged up, right? After you just broke it down right now. So that's obviously a concern that I'll be looking at going forward, because I think what brought Justin Fields all together was the ability to be able to run the ball, right? Like, do I trust Justin Fields to go out here and be forced to be a pass-first offense? I'm not quite sure yet. I don't think there's enough receiving weapons around him to play that way, or I don't think it's plays to what's comfortable for him, right? Maybe Justin Fields raises his aspect of running the ball this upcoming week due to the O-line being so bad. Maybe we see more quarterback-driven runs. Justin Fields using his feet just a little bit more to help in that aspect. But for me, Justin Fields has looked great. The whole Russell Wilson situation, I heard the same thing, right? That he's not really hurt. He's kind of just, wants Justin Fields to mess up, or wants Justin Fields to have a bad week and then come in and be like, all right, I'm healthy, now let me start, right? And I'm 100% with you. When your team is clicking like that, and you've been going through the goods and the bads, you've already gone through 4 weeks together, you went through 3 wins, 1 loss, you went through the ups and the downs, your offense has looked its absolute best, right? And so I wouldn't want to mess with any of that stuff. Mike Tomlin does look like the kind of guy who he's like, I don't care, I'm going to make my decision because it's my decision, right? So hopefully he makes the correct decision. I know the whole, I'm not going to name Justin Fields the full-time starter because there's no need to do that. Russ is hurt, right? So we'll definitely see how that all plays out. But I'm supporting Justin Fields. I hope Justin Fields does great. I think he kind of got a bad rap in Chicago, right? And now we're seeing Caleb Williams, how that's looking for him to start off. There's no run game over there no more. So it's just a whole situation. But again, I'm riding for Justin Fields. I hope he does great. I hope he continues to get better. I still think another receiver could just help him develop as a player, just having another reliable wide receiver too, because outside of George Pickens, there's nobody else to really, get that vertical downfield, hit those big time plays, make those big time catches. So we'll definitely like to see who steps up going forward, because I think it's only going to benefit Justin Fields in the long run for this season. But you could basically do a lot of stuff with a defense like this, because of how great they are for the most part. 1 bad week defensively, and not even a bad week, but to their lockdown standards, But again, I'm completely confident that this team's going to be fine. They even have a bounce back week this upcoming week, defensively at least. And then the last thing I wanted to discuss before we get into our Week 5 NFL pick'ems, I wanted to discuss the top 10 teams though so far through weeks 1 through 4. And do you have a list of your own? Did you make a list?
Yes, I do.
All right, perfect. So we will go bottom up from 10 all the way down to 1. You can give your
Sounds
10.
good.
I'll give my 10. You can give you a little brief why you got them at 10. You got a boom, and then we'll go all the way back up to 1.
Sounds good. At my 10, I have the Seattle Seahawks.
Oh my God.
At what, they're 3-1 now, with the loss to the Lions. I just think their offense has done so well. They've been so dynamic. K9 had like three touchdowns on the ground or something like that. Geno Smith is slinging it. I think he's literally leading the NFL in passing yards, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, he's just been spreading the ball out. The offense looks great. DK and JSN and K9, but the defense, kind of let them up this week. But I feel like the Seahawks they've been playing everyone pretty well, and they've just been winning games. And that offense has been clicking with Geno Smith, which I was kind of like, at the beginning of the year, I was kind of hesitant on Geno, and I thought Sam Howell was going to get the starting position eventually, but Geno's kind of proved me wrong. The touchdowns and the interception, ratio isn't the greatest, but he's slinging it. So yeah, I have the Seahawks at 10.
Yeah, which was funny because I have the Seahawks at 10 as well. Right. For all the same reasons. I mean, Geno Smith to me has been someone I'm very high on. I love him as a player, and I think he's playing phenomenal this year. Arguably, could be his best year if he continues this type of production, which is something that people were questioning. Were they ever going to get that same sort of production that they got the year they made the playoffs? DK Metcalf is looking in full form. Tyler Lockett being a reliable number 3 to me is just great. JSN has really been stepping up and has been a great receiver so far this year. I love his game and his addition to this team. And the biggest thing for me was I knew this Seahawks defense, had looked very, very good through the first 3 weeks against lesser opponents, right? But I knew the defense was going to be tested against Detroit. They didn't look great. Like you said, they gave up a lot of points, put their offense in a bad situation. They could not stop the Detroit Lions with how high-powered that offense is. But the biggest thing for me that I thought that I took the feedback that I got from that game was the fact that Kenneth Walker was able to run the ball against the Detroit Lions. Which is something that I didn't expect going into that game, right? And when you have Kenneth Walker and the Seattle Seahawks team running against a team like Detroit, who's defensively against the run has been great, right? They've just stopped everybody that they've played against in the run game this year. And when you're able to run and dominate the line of scrimmage like you did last night, that's just going to help Geno Smith be a better player, right? And this offense flow, right? It gives DK Metcalf more opportunities, JSN, Geno Smith the play action is now set up, so now it gets some more easier looks downfield. And I still like this team. I'm very high on them. I still love this secondary in Tariq Woolen and Witherspoon. So yeah, I got them at 10.
Perfect. At 9, I have the Buccaneers. With a also 3-1 start, Baker Mayfield absolutely lighting it up. I would say the one thing, obviously, kind of like their loss to Denver. Before that, they were lighting it up. The first 2 weeks, they lost to Denver, and then they beat the crud out of the Eagles, right, who are supposed to be a pretty good team. But Jalen Hurts doesn't have, some of his starting receivers or whatever. But they just put a pounding on that defense. And Denver beat the Jets. So I don't know. Maybe we're not giving enough credit to Denver. I have no idea.
Denver's sneaky good.
Yeah, I guess a little. I guess the defense is good, not the,
Yeah.
not the offense. Bo Nix, I think, had like negative 5 yards passing for a very long time.
I saw that. That was crazy.
Yeah, I had the Buccaneers solely based off that offense is doing pretty well. I don't know, the run game hasn't really been there much, but they've kind of been touch and go with Rashad White and Bucky Irving back there. But Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, that receiving duo is just deadly. Whether it's any given night, it could either be Mike Evans' night or Chris Godwin's night. And I feel like last week it was both of their nights, and they both went pretty great. So whenever that's working, whenever Baker's Baker's getting more consistent. He's hitting his throws, in stride. They're a scary team to watch, and they've been playing pretty well. So I have them at 9.
And yeah, my 9 is the Washington Commanders, right? Strictly, they did lose. That only loss was to Tampa Bay. but they have looked great coming these past couple weeks. Jaden Daniels, again, we've discussed how great he's looked. Leads the NFL in completion percentage. You didn't punt for 3 straight weeks. Terry McLaurin's getting involved. Zach Ertz, he's looking like a younger version of himself, and with his ability to Jaden Daniels' ability to run the ball as an athlete, dual threat guy, it opens up for Brian Robinson. And I just think when you are able to run the ball, especially with a rookie quarterback, it makes everything else easier. This team has been flowing. Cliff Kingsbury's been drawing up great concepts, great plays. And when your defense is not the worst in the league no more, this team, like I've said it before, had a great offensive roster. The O-line, like you said, has looked good. Night and day from last year, how bad it was with Sam Howell. And with Jaden Daniels just being able to be so calm from the pocket, being able to play, a true NFL style quarterback, and like not have to rely on him being an athlete to get out of plays and make him, do extra plays, do all that special finesse stuff. It's just great for him and his development. Number 8.
Next up, number 8, I've got the Steelers. With the Steelers, right, their defense probably, before last week, best in the NFL, right? They've been doing pretty well at getting to the quarterback against the Colts. Not so much. And I'm not going to talk about like the refereeing that game, which I thought was a little bit ridiculous. There was a call on Minkah Fitzpatrick for unnecessary roughness down the field when he went shoulder to shoulder with a wide receiver on the sideline, that the Mike Tomlin called the like the NFL front office or whoever they call to actually judge flags, and they said that it wasn't a flag and it shouldn't have been a flag, and that penalty put them in in our territory, and then they scored that drive. So you take away that penalty, which was like on a 3rd and long, I think we win the game. So just things like that. But obviously it shouldn't have been that close of a game. If your game is decided by a flag or a penalty, you're not doing your job. So with Justin Fields, the whole offense is getting better and better every week. I just feel like there's always like a couple of plays where it just doesn't fall in the Steelers' favor. And just watching that defense was extremely frustrating. If they beat the Colts, I probably would have had them at least top 3 or 4. But this drops them to 8, in my opinion, this week.
Possible hot take: the Pittsburgh Steelers did not break my top 10. And I'm just gonna say now,
Okay.
strictly due to the offensive firepower. Defensively, they're obviously they could be top 2 if it was defenses alone, right? But offensive firepower, no wide receiver 2. The run game now with the banged up O-line, you know what I'm saying? So that's all. But okay, there's still mad respect for the Steelers. Just need to see more from somebody else other than George Pickens. And
brother.
You know what I'm saying? All right, just throwing that out there real quick. Okay, number 8, I got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? Obviously, I got them ahead of the Commanders because that was the only loss the Commanders had this year. Baker Mayfield, the question was he going to prove he was a $30 million quarterback after he got this extension? And he has proved just that, beating the Eagles. The only loss being to the Denver Broncos, who it was a trap game, and they fell for it. They fell right into that trap. Patrick Surtain did what Patrick Surtain does. But no, I love the dynamic of this team. Although the rushing offense, like you said, has not been there, right, with Rachaad White, I think Bucky Irving has been arguably their best back by far, just with the yards per touch and what kind of, how he affects the game. So I hope Bucky Irving gets more involved in the run game early on, because there's too many times where I see Rachaad White struggling to run the ball, and I don't know if it's a concept thing, different OC, does this not play to Rachaad White's strengths, and things like that. But Baker Mayfield has been coming out here and just absolutely throwing the ball. And when Mike Evans looks like the Mike Evans of the youth, like he's fresh out of college, fresh out of Texas A&M, and Chris Godwin looks like he never got hurt, looks like they're about to compete for another Super Bowl. This gives me PTSD of back when Tom Brady was on the Bucs. And when you're out here throwing the ball like that, you're getting Josh Palmer involved, and you're getting McMillan involved as well. This is a very scary team. And defensively, there was questions about this team, but they've been solid. They haven't been great, haven't been bad. They've been solid enough to win games, enough to hold a team like Philadelphia to only 16 points, right? So they're my number 8 team.
All right, my number 7 team is the Commanders. I have the Commanders over the Steelers, the Bucks, and the Seahawks. I feel like right now, when they that lost to the Bucks, I feel like they're a completely different team from when they lost to the Bucks.
That's
I
fair.
feel like the team that's averaged 40 points the last 2 weeks is just different from that team that only scored 20 against the Bucks and just didn't look the greatest. Even Jaden Daniels still looked pretty good in that game. He just wasn't flinging the ball and throwing it like he was before. But that Buccaneers Commanders game and that Giants Commanders game, I feel like the Commanders have definitely stepped up. They dropped 38 on the Bengals. They dropped 42 on the Cardinals, and then they have the Browns and the Ravens coming up. So a couple of AFC matchups with a couple of good defenses. So it'll be exciting to see how Jaden Daniels does against them, and Myles Garrett and Kyle Hamilton and Kyle Van Noy and them and Roquan Smith. But I have them right now at 7. I think they're one of the hottest teams in the NFL.
Yeah, I respect to that because I 100% agree. My number 7 though is going to be the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, you just seen them. They were seen as one of the best teams in the NFL. Josh Allen's gonna have this MVP year, and that's what it looked like through 3 weeks, right? And then you finally saw some competition, right? And again, I don't question the defense. I don't question the off Josh Allen as a quarterback or that run game. It's just you ran into a better team, a more stacked team. You ran into a situation where you needed to throw the ball and start pushing stuff downfield. You're not playing ahead of the sticks anymore. You're not dominating in the run game, and there was nobody there to step and make plays, right? So when your biggest concern is that nobody's getting open, and with a guy like Josh Allen, that's a huge red flag for me. But again, nonetheless, their ability to run the ball should be able to help them continue to win games. But with that being said, I got them at 7.
Sweet. And then at 6, I have the Bills. Yeah, I feel like the first 2 weeks, the first 3 weeks, they looked like, the best team in the NFL. Everything was clicking. And then last week we talked about how this is kind of like the first legitimate team, legitimate defense that they're going to play. So if they play well this game, I was talking about how I would put the Bills into the conversation as the best team in the NFL if they beat the Ravens this week, and they got absolutely mollywopped by the Ravens. So yeah, that kind of drops them a little bit for me. That whole aspect of are they actual contenders? Are they actual for real and things like that? We'll wait until they play another pretty high calibered team. But I feel like this was just a wake up call for them. And Josh Allen, and the fact that they don't have that superstar on their team on that offense. So they couldn't run the ball, which is a huge thing with James Cook. He had like less than 40 yards rushing, and they've been able to do that every week. And so 1 week they'll run the ball and they'll just run the ball the whole game, and Josh Allen won't have to do a lot. Last week it was kind of like Josh Allen was just airing it out. He had 4 passing touchdowns, you know what I mean? Things like that. Both of those just didn't work against the Ravens defense. They just locked them up, you know what I mean? And then you had Khalil Shakir doing his best, Keon Coleman doing his best too, but it honestly just wasn't enough. So I have them at my 6th spot.
My number 6, I got the San Francisco 49ers, right? Brock Purdy's been able to hold it down. He's been able to keep them afloat with all the injuries they have. Jordan Mason has been phenomenal. You're not missing CMC at this current moment. Sure, his ability to elevate the game and in different ways through the pass game and different concepts, being able to throw in the ball and all this other stuff. Yes, you do miss that aspect. But Brock Purdy playing with no Deebo Samuel, no George Kittle, Jawan Jennings being your best receiving option, right? Boom. Now the health bug hopefully starts to go in your favor. You're supposed to get Debo back this week. You're supposed to get Kittle back this week. So hopefully that adds and elevates your offense, takes some of the pressure off Brock Purdy. But Brock Purdy's been playing great this year. He's answered the question when it came to can he perform without, all the Avengers on his team, and he's done that, right? Defensively, there is still some questions, right? Their loss to the Rams is absolutely unexplainable. You should have never lost that game. You should never put yourself in the position to lose that game. So again, my biggest concern with these guys is age and health, and hopefully they could, figure it out, hopefully stay healthy. And, that's my biggest concern for this team going forward. That's why I got them at 6.
All right. And then at my number 5, I have the Houston Texans. I mean the they've just been firing on all cylinders, man. I mean that offense. I feel like the emergence of Nico Collins has a huge thing to do with it. They obviously don't have Joe Mixon right now, but man, Nico Collins is just insane. They didn't even have Tank Dell last game. They beat the Jaguars, which I mean the Jaguars sure they're 0-4, but they're not that bad. You know what I mean? They just like, the offense just hasn't been clicking and like everything else just hasn't been figuring itself out. But like, yeah, I have the Texans. Their offense is deadly, and then their defense has been really, really good too. They've just been getting after the quarterback. They've got Stingley, they've got Petrie, they've got Henry Tuatua, who's an absolute dog in the middle of the heading that defense at Mike linebacker. So I feel like they've just been firing on all cylinders. Diggs has been doing a lot better than I thought he would be doing. And Nico Collins has just taken that next step to like he's a superstar wide receiver now. Like you can't say he isn't. You know what I mean? I thought like low end wide receiver one, high end wide receiver two, kind of like a T Higgins, George Pickens, Ash. No, he's a superstar wide receiver now. He went for 12 catches, over 150 yards and a touchdown. Like that's superstar wide receiver material. And so CJ Stroud, you got your franchise QB, one of the best QBs in the NFL, and he throws for over 300 and a couple touchdowns too. So I think that the Texans are looking really good and legit.
Yeah, and I have the Texans at 5 as well, right? And when you are able to, the offense has not been screaming like success. You had that week 1 where Joe Mixon went for 150 yards. You had the every week, you had Nico Collins. They're comparing him to Andre Johnson with what he's doing on the football field, right? And to me, this is one of those teams where the defense has not looked like top 5, top 10. Has looked a bit underwhelming to me, at least for the consistency of the whole first 4 weeks. But the players are there, right? You have the players at every position. You still, again, you have a great pass rush behind a defensive-minded coach, so I expect the defense to continue to get better as the season goes on, right? But when you have a team that you could just underperform on offense with how much offensive firepower you have, and you're still just managing to chip away and win games, it just looks a little bit like the Chiefs, where you don't have to play your best version of offense because you still haven't yet, right? But you're still managing to just win games. And the only team you lost to was the smoking hot Minnesota Vikings and that Brian Flores defense, right? So again, when you're able to just win games like that without being 100% clicking on offense, that means you're a very, very talented team and a very well coached team. And that's why I got the Houston Texans at 5.
Okay, so for 4, I have the Baltimore Ravens. This one might be a little bit, but after that win against the Bills, I feel like they've gotten better every week. Obviously, the last 2 weeks beat the Dallas Cowboys. I'm gonna say they cakewalked them. I feel like that
They
fourth
did.
quarter, kind of just the Cowboys coming back, they kind of just like put their foot off the gas pedal. But yeah, so I have the Ravens at 4. They're good, man. The offense, Derrick Henry, they're finally just giving him the ball, man. Derrick Henry looks unstoppable the past 2 weeks. They killed the Bills, they killed the Cowboys. Those are 2 pretty good teams. I don't know if I can call the Cowboys good anymore. I don't know. We'll see. We'll keep
No.
going. It's weird to say that the Cowboys are not a good team when
Which
I'm
is
referencing
crazy,
them.
right?
I
Right.
mean, but the Bills, we thought we were pretty good, and they absolutely cakewalked the Bills. So after that, I feel like they're a completely different team from the first 2 weeks. Obviously, I mean, you get a bad beat against the Chiefs, you know what I mean? So maybe they're 3-1 if Isaiah Likely keeps his foot in, things like that. So I have the Ravens at 4. I think they're an absolute powerhouse, and they're looking like it after the last 2 weeks.
And I am right here with you, dog. 100%. The Baltimore Ravens at 4. Just for all the same reasons. Derrick Henry, I said he was going to be great in this offense, and he's been just great the last 2 weeks. If they would have used him more in week 1 and week 2, specifically against the Raiders, this could be a whole different situation. This could be a whole different team, right? Losing to the Raiders by 10-point lead in the fourth quarter, that mean Gardner Minshew mania, let's go, right? But other than that, losing to the Chiefs, I'm not gonna knock you down for losing to the Chiefs. You had one trap game and you lost in the trap game, right, to the Raiders. But this team has been belt to ass for the last 2 weeks, right? Against the MVP and Josh Allen. Like, they were calling the Buffalo Bills one of the best teams in the league. First play of the game, first play of the drive. Derrick Henry takes it 98 yards, whatever it was, 90 yards, whatever it was, to the house, right? And this team just looks unstoppable at this current moment. Again, a little too early to say that, but when Lamar Jackson doesn't have to throw the ball and you could just run read option the entire way, this is a very scary team to go against. So that's why I got him at 4.
All right, at 3, I have the Detroit Lions.
Ouch.
Yeah, and I feel like for the Lions, they had every week for them has been kind of a close game, besides the Seahawks one, and I'd still say the Seahawks one was kind of a close game. With with their only loss being to the Buccaneers, and the Buccaneers are another top 10 team, I feel like. The problem I feel like every week since week one was Jared Goff's play. I feel like they just weren't. Jared wasn't there to like throw the ball well. He was throwing for under 200 yards a game, maybe an interception here and there. In the Buccaneers game, I mean, he threw for 300, right? But he had a couple of interceptions too. Um, I have them at 3 because that defense, I think the defense, even though they let up a lot of points to the Seahawks, I feel like the defense is really, really good. With Aiden Hutchinson, who leads the NFL in sacks right now. They've got Jack Campbell in the middle of the field, Malcolm Rodriguez. They have Terrion Arnold in their secondary, Carlton Davis, who's been doing really well, Kirby
Brian
Joseph,
Branch.
who's also been doing really well, Brian Branch, yeah, who's been lighting it up as well. So I feel like I have them at 3. Their run game too, man, their run game is one of the most dynamic in the NFL with the Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, best running back duo in the NFL. They just play off each other so well with David and Jahmyr Gibbs. So this team's exciting to watch. They dropped 42 points on the Seahawks defense, and the Seahawks defense is supposed to be one of the better ones in the NFL. So I think they're just progressing. And also Jared Goff, 18 for 18, 292 yards passing and 2 touchdowns, almost a perfect game technically to passer rating standards, which I don't understand how he didn't have a perfect passer rating game. But and nevertheless, the offense is finally clicking. Jared Goff's finally settling in, and it's looking like the Lions team from last year.
Yeah, and again, number 3 is Detroit. I have no issues with Detroit being right here. Their biggest thing for me, although Jared Goff, like you said, struggled in the early stages of things, is now you have a Detroit Lions offense that was already so high powered last year, but now you have a legitimate wide receiver 2 alongside Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams, and just different ways you use him. You use him on end arounds, you use him on just throwing in the ball, handing the ball off, jet sweeps, just putting the ball in his hands, allowing him to make plays. And I think that's the biggest difference from this team going into last year, right? And like you said, defensively, Aiden Hutchinson has turned into one of the best DNs in football, right? He's been an absolute monster every time he plays defensively against the run. They've been very great. Last night, a couple nights ago, obviously they did get exposed a little bit by Seattle, but Seattle is a great team. And so I'm not worried about, a good team, I should say, maybe. So I'm not worried about that. But the biggest thing to me is just that these last 3 weeks, they have just got back to the basics and just Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, back and forth, 1-2 punch has been absolutely insane. And when this team wants to run the ball behind that great offensive line, they can do just that, right? And then to top it all off, you have an elite tight end in Sam Laporta, who's been absolutely phenomenal since he's gotten here. And even this year, he's been great against Seattle. He was great. So yeah, I'm loving this team at 3.
Perfect. At 2, I have the Kansas City Chiefs at 2. I
That's what I was
have
talking
them at
about.
2. The Rashee Rice loss is big for me. I feel like the Isaiah Pacheco loss is also pretty big for me. Patrick Mahomes just hasn't been looking like Patrick Mahomes. He's been turning the ball over like crazy. Like I said, he has more interceptions than games played, which is pretty crazy to say for Patrick Mahomes. That defense, though, headed by Nick Bolton, is stout. I love the defense. Their defense is great. But I don't know, like looking forward, how the offense is going to play with just like an aging Travis Kelce, who hasn't been crazy, and then like a wide receiver core who has a wide receiver 1 who's a rookie, which is pretty crazy to me. It's putting a lot of pressure on Xavier Worthy and everyone else in that kind of Kareem Hunt did okay, I guess, at running back. It's really weird to see him back as the starting running back for the Chiefs, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like the offense is just going to take a dive. I feel like the offense is going to take a dive. Sure, they still have Patrick Mahomes. They still have Travis Kelce. They still have Xavier Worthy. They'll be fine. They'll be okay. The offensive line is healthy. They're still really good. But I don't put them over my number 1 team. I feel like the number 1 team that I have is they everything's firing on all cylinders for the number 1 team. So yeah, I have them at 2.
And I'm with you. I'm right here with you, brother. Number 2, the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm for the exact same reasons. No Rashee Rice. Do I trust Xavier Worthy to become a legitimate, reliable wide receiver 1? No, I don't, right? That's why they're talking in discussions for trading for a wide receiver, whether it's Amari Cooper, Tyreek Hill coming back, Davante Adams. They are talking to everybody about getting another wide receiver here. Last year, we saw the offensive struggles. Travis Kelce, I don't think he's going to turn into prime Travis Kelce. I really don't, right? I think it's gonna be a worse version of last year when you had a young Rasheed Rice, no Travis Kelce production. That offense looked terrible, looked stagnant. It was a bottom 22 offense last year. And so I'm with you. I think this team's gonna take a dive. This defense hasn't looked absolutely elite like it did last year. It's looked good. It's a good and great in certain moments, but it hasn't looked as dominant as it was last year. So now we're looking at a different defense when you talk about statistics and how dominant it looks, and a different offense. I wouldn't. This is all putting them at number 2 is a respect pick, right? Back-to-back champs, undefeated at this current moment. Till you lose is I'm gonna keep you up there at the top. But that's my number 2. Number 1, baby.
Number 1, the Minnesota Vikings.
Sam Darnold, baby.
Sam Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings. Man, who could have thought? I mean, yeah, so everything's firing on all cylinders. The defense is playing well. I mean, I know they gave up almost 30 points to the Packers, and Jordan Love lit them up a little bit, but guess what? They had 3 interceptions, 3 turnovers from Jordan Love, which is huge, and they kept giving the offense back the ball. Sam Darnold taking care of the ball, absolutely slinging it. Justin Jefferson, best wide receiver in the NFL, week in, week out. Jordan Addison's also stepping up. Their run game too. They're able to run the ball. Aaron Jones is, I think, like top 10 in the NFL in rushing yards. So that's everything's firing on all cylinders. Brian Flores and that defense with its schemes and their ability to turn the ball over when they gave up a ton of yards and points this game, but they got turnovers, which negated it. Right? It completely flipped it on its head. And like the defense schemes, the ability to get turnovers for their offense, the offense firing on all cylinders, being able to throw the ball with Sam Darnold and also run really well with Aaron Jones. Like, it's exciting to watch, and everything's just clicking. Like, I can't think of a weak spot on this team right now that I'm like, yeah, that's a weak spot, and you can 100% see it. You know what I mean? Maybe like the position of tight end, just because Hawkinson isn't up yet, and they have Johnny Munt, who hasn't really been doing too much. Central Catholic alum, bless up, but I feel like, and they also have the emergence of Jalen Naylor too, who's been doing really well as their wide receiver 3 as well. So everything's kind of just clicking for them. Everything's going well. And Patrick Jones, I shouted out him last week, being extremely underrated with 4 sacks. He had another sack today. So he has 5 sacks now. So he's like, I think 2nd or 3rd in the NFL in sacks. So he just keeps putting it up and putting it up. But yeah, it's exciting to watch.
Yeah, and again, number 1 is the Minnesota Vikings as well. I think this is, like you said, I'm not going to go over all the same reasons you just said, because I'm with you. Brian Flores, Sam Darnold's been playing like Sam Darnold from USC, the guy we've been waiting to see, right? And I just think this team's going to continue to get better. Like I said, my biggest thing is with all the success you've already had, right, with being able to run the ball with Aaron Jones, you still have a guy like TJ Hawkinson coming back from injury, right? Mekhi Blackman, 2nd-round pick from USC last year, he has a torn ACL. Like, this team could be even better, like, in the future and going forward, which is crazy to think about. But my biggest thing to take away from this is that Sam Darnold has clearly been playing good football. He's been playing kind of game manager like football, but he's been scoring touchdowns while he's doing it, right? So for me, I'm looking to see if maybe Sam Darnold can take another step in more of being a lethal passer, you know what I'm saying? More big plays, more crazier things, MVP-like plays from him. I'm not asking for it, but if he can get to that level where you could rely on him to go out there and go toe-to-toe with Jordan Love and throw for 300 yards, like one of those moments, like that type of QB, this team could look absolutely scary if the QB is playing like a legitimate top 5, top 8 QB. So that's something I want to keep an eye on going forward. But again, this team is just top to bottom is great. And then, did you want to do pick'ems today, or you just want to?
Let's save it for. Actually, yeah, let's do Thursday. Let's do Thursday's game.
Thursday night pick'ems. Again, if you've been checking out our player props, pick'ems, and all that stuff on TikTok, I appreciate it. It's been going really well so far. A lot of people have been liking it. Seeing a lot of you guys interact with the comments and stuff like that here. A lot of people text me about picks I got, and a lot of fantasy football talk as well, obviously. But Thursday night, obviously tomorrow, you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers playing in Atlanta versus the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons are a -1.5 point favorite. And who do you got Thursday night?
I've got the Buccaneers. This is going to be a really good game. Obviously, it's a divisional game. Baker Mayfield against that Falcons defense and Kirk Cousins. But I feel like I don't know. I'm riding the hot hand with Baker. I feel like they just absolutely trampled the Eagles. But I think this is going to be a more high scoring game again. I think that both of the teams are going to be able to score, and they're just like it's gonna be a fun game to watch. I think Bijan's gonna have a bigger game than he's had the couple past weeks. I think Kirk Cousins is gonna be able to air the ball out a little bit more than he has. I feel like yeah, each team's just gonna score rather quickly, and it's gonna be kind of a shootout. I'd take the over on whatever the points are. And then I also like Kirk Cousins' line of 228 yards passing. I like over on that. And then I also like the over on Bijan's 63 and a half. I like the over on that too. I think Bijan's kind of, he's been a little the past couple weeks. He hasn't ran for more than like 40 yards, which has been pretty bad. But I feel like they're going to try to get the offense back on track and they're going to have to run the ball. So Bijan over rushing yards. And I also have Kirk Cousins over passing yards because I think 220 is just nothing. And I think they'll be able to get to that amount. So yeah. But I do have the Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield winning this game.
Yeah, and to be honest, part of me wants to go with Atlanta, but I mean, listen, they're already 1-2 at home, and the Buccaneers are just so damn hot right now, and Baker Mayfield is just playing. When he's playing like that, and their run game, which was their point of emphasis last year, is not at full strength. I mean, this team is just scary. Division rivalry game though, so it's going to be a thriller regardless. But I'm gonna go Tampa Bay Buccaneers here, for all the right reasons. I mean, listen. Mike Evans, when he's playing like this, to me is still a top 10 receiver. One of the most underrated players again, but he's just consistent as hell. Chris Godwin, and now he's looking like he's young again, looking like 2 years pre ACL injury, right? And this team looks good. And hopefully Bucky Irving can get more involved in the run game, with Rashad White being lackluster this year with a new different scheme, no longer Dave Canales. So maybe this is the week Bucky Irving takes over as majority carries in this game, because he's been very, very productive. K. Dotton's been very reliable as well as another receiving option. But defensively, I like what I see. I love what I see defensively. These guys are great against the run. In the secondary, they still give up a little bit decent amount of yards, but they don't give up too many amount of points. And the way they just dominated against Philadelphia this past week is just you can't overlook it, right? And Baker, and I still think they could be like blowing teams out if they really wanted to, but they kind of hit that once we're up certain amount of points, we're just hitting cruise control, we're going to run the ball, and, close out the game the right way, which I respect from them. But yeah, I got Tampa Bay in this game. And player prop wise, I haven't looked at anything, so I'm not going to say anything without looking. So you'll see that stuff on the TikTok later. But yeah, I got Tampa Bay winning this game. But with that being said, that is to the end of today's episode. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to subscribe, like, comment, turn on post notifications. If you don't, make sure to follow us on TikTok, Young Rich Podcast, and SJ Cards. Link will be in the description as well. And if you listen to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, make sure to follow the show, give it a 5-star rating, as it helps the algorithm. And with that being said, if you like the content, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. We out.